old NIST 800-171, and you immediately became overwhelmed because you saw 110 security requirements with no clear starting line. And that's common, right? Simplifying it though, first step, of course, and if we're talking about CMMC level 2 specifically, figure out if you actually have CUI in your environment, right? Look for the DFARS clauses in your contracts. If it's there, then you are in scope. If you're not sure, of course, you have contracting officers, you can engage consultants, right? But the first step, and I say this at the beginning of every one of my client engagements, is doing a data inventory. We need to figure out if you actually have CUI. And then if we do, who touches it? What part of your environments does it touch at all? Transmitting, storing, handling in general. We need to get a general inventory of that philosophy, right? Once we get that covered, then and if the answer is yes, that you do have CUI within your environment, I recommend doing a gap assessment, and that can all be done in-house. So once you know you're in scope, compare where you are today against those 110 controls, and you can go in whatever order you'd like. But that is your gap assessment. On the question of a hiring firm, I think this one's very interesting. For small companies, yeah, bringing in outside help is definitely worth it, but we want to be selective, right? So look for your registered practitioner organizations or RPOs, or you also want to look for organizations that specialize in CMMC. I'm sure that at this point, if you're asking this question, you started vetting organizations that do professional services or consulting services around different regulatory frameworks, and you'll see that a lot of these organizations have expertise and pretty much every framework under the sun. And why that might be true for those smaller organizations with limited resources, you're going to want to engage a firm or a consultancy, if that's the route you're going, that specifies in CMMC, or at least puts that in top of mind, and has the in-house expertise to be able to handle it, right? But that said, and I want to make this distinction, that said, in this case, a good consultant doesn't do the work for you. Okay, let's keep that in mind. They help you understand what you need to own long-term. CMMC, it's a maturity model. The point is to demonstrate maturation, right? So CMMC is not a one-time project. It's an ongoing program, and that's why we call it a security program. So start simple, scope small, document everything, and don't wait for that contract requirement to force your hand into becoming compliant or starting to look into your environment. Because what we've seen really in this field is that the companies that start early are typically the ones that win the contracts later.